So we're going to talk about three ways here to increase your revenue per visit with marketing. And if you were on in the very first session, second session, when I was talking about mistakes, one of those mistakes is that we think that the health of our systems are siloed off to some degree. And the example that we had there was that, if we look at the human body, which we're all very familiar with, right, that's our expertise. When we think about the musculoskeletal system and the nervous system, or the neuromuscular system, the respiratory system, the digestive system, etc., you can't really separate those out. It's all nearly impossible. If we're seeing somebody and we're trying to help them in the musculoskeletal realm to heal an area, let's say it's knee osteoarthritis, but they have lots of comorbidities and damage to the other systems, and those other systems are not optimum, very difficult to get healing, right? It's the same exact thing within our practices and the interrelation of the system. So we're going to talk about marketing, and I'm going to give you three specific strategies that you can use in marketing to improve your revenue per visit. And most owners that I talk with, even some of the larger practices, when we're talking one-on-one, they'll get to a point and they'll say, "That's a good idea." Again, it's beyond a good idea because it's not necessarily what I'm doing in my practice, but it's what I get to learn from other practices as well. So remember, we keep going back to this revenue per visit system, where we're systematically, incrementally, every single quarter looking to improve our revenue per visit. I haven't shared this yet, but a really good personal goal that we have is 1% a quarter, right? If we do 1% a quarter, we basically get 4.4% per year. And that really adds up over time. So we're looking for these small wins. Many of the owners, practice owners on here today, have shared bigger than that. Sterling was 15 to 20% in terms of increase in revenue. You heard, Lance talking about half a unit, 0.54 units, I believe, was worth $1.1 million to his practice, et cetera. So, yeah, you can certainly make bigger changes, but we're every single quarter, we're trying to stretch ourselves to grow that rev per visit at least 1%, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace, right? And this is the system that we keep coming back to. And the one profit lever that we haven't touched on yet is marketing for profit, this first profit lever over here on the right, when we're talking about different strategies. So the other thing that, again, is just a unique position that I get to go through is, for most of us, there's two big leaks that we have in our practices that directly go to our bottom line and our rev per visit. It's underutilized schedule time, underutilized space. It's the lowest level of arbitrage, the most simple gain. So if you have clinicians whose schedules are not busy, it's the easiest thing to do, right? So just out of curiosity in the chat, how many of you have a waiting list? And if you have a waiting list, you can write how long your waiting list is, versus how many of you have a schedule capacity to see more patients? You can just put that in the chat right now. Should be able to see it. Great. Right, capacity to see more. Belinda can see more. Dana, 8 to 10 on the wait list almost constantly. See more, can see more, can see more. Great. The next one, so some of us have a waiting list, some of us have a capacity to see more patients. So fill schedules. The second one that we want to think about is filling space. And here's what I mean by that. Wow, May, we're booked into December. We need to hire more clinicians. Great. So and that's the second thing. So we can fill schedules with marketing for profit, and we can also fill space. And here's what I mean by that. We have a clinic that we just opened up within the last 12 months or so. And that clinic, we have 3,000 square feet. We have 2 full-time clinicians in that space, and we're seeing over 100 visits a week right now. We're looking to add that third full-time clinician, and we're actively interviewing right now, same as many of you are. Within that space, so today we're at 100 visits a week. We believe that we can see about 300 visits a week in that space. So that is, to me, 2,000 square feet of underutilized space that we're paying for every single month, right? So when I think about marketing, we think about filling schedules with great paying patients and then filling space as well, right? So that's the game that we're constantly in when we're talking about marketing for profit. Very simply, there are 5 ways that patients can come into our clinic. Before I call them up here, does anybody want to take a guess what they are? What are the 5 new patient pathways? Think about one new patient who you saw this week. How did they make it into your clinic? May, word of mouth. Great. Andrew says MD, physician referral. Awesome. Yep. Monica referred from other patients, word of mouth, walk in, previous patient. Great. So we have 3 of them so far. Social media, media type. Yep. Website, social media, events, community events, SEO. I think we hit them all here. So, and just so we're all on the same page, reactivations are patients, past patients who are coming back for additional care. Word of mouth referrals are referrals from patients. We can get referrals from physicians or MDs, PAs, nurse practitioners, depending on your practice act. We can get referrals from partners. So Brett, I would put it under community events as the same thing, but we will go out to large employers in our area or municipalities, township centers, et cetera, and our therapist will speak at a health fair, or we'll do a workshop or a lunch and learn, something similar out in the community. So we can get a referral from partner there. Somebody else is promoting us is ultimately what that is. Might be a gym as well, yoga studio, et cetera. And then we can also do cold traffic marketing, and that's where the social media comes in. That's where Google and SEO and stuff like that comes in as well. So really only 5 ways that we can make it into the office. Big strategy number 1 is super simple, and you can do this same day. I've done this within the last month myself, and yeah, very simple to do. And this is how simple this process is. You can select a patient, right? Any patient. Now, I would, as I indicated before, I would hedge my bet a little bit. So if payer mix is an issue for me and I'm looking to increase my revenue per visit, I can go through my patient list and choose patients that have the best payer, right? I'm allowed to do that. Here, I just want to back up 1 second. So we can influence payer mix and rev per visit with reactivations. Can we do that with word of mouth referrals, right? I'm talking with Mary in the clinic, and Mary shares a big win, and I ask for a referral, and I say, hey, by the way, Mary, Highmark Blue Shield is our best payer. If your friend that you're talking about right now has Blue Cross or Medicare, don't have them come here. Only have them come if they're Highmark, right? We can't do that, right? So that's out. No real strategies there on improving rev per visit outside of just filling up the schedule. The third one, referring from physicians, same thing. I can't go to, Dr. Duramo, my family doctor, and say, hey, by the way, thanks for all those referrals, but you keep sending me, XYZ insurance company. They're our worst payer. Please don't send those people, right? I would never do that, right? And you wouldn't either. So we can't really go to referrals from patients or referrals from physicians. We can do it from referrals from partners. And I'll share with you how here in a second. We can also do it with cold traffic marketing. But right now, I'll give you 2 tactics on reactivations, and then we'll talk about partners as well. So you can select a patient, right? Again, I tend to go through, I haven't seen them in at least 6 months, but I saw them within the last 2 years, right? So very, very simple. And I can influence my own payer mix, especially if I'm doing this one-on-one. I want to choose a media type. I'll give you 5 examples. You can use email. You can use text. You can use direct message from any sort of social app that you're both on, right? You can use direct mail piece, and you can also use a phone call. But in this example, let's say I'm using text. Here I'm in the breakthrough software, and this is what we use to send out a one-on-one text. But I'm choosing a media type. So I selected a patient, Mary. I'm choosing the media type. In this case, it's a text, and I'm writing a personal message. You want it to be some form of how are you? I've tested a lot of messages. I've tested them for recruiting clinicians. lots of different messages there on LinkedIn Recruiter. Have tested this. Then I've also tested messaging with patients. This is the format, the template that works best. It's some form of, hi, this is whoever it is. In this case, it's, hi, Mary, this is Chad Madden from Madden and Gilbert PT. It's been 6 months since you were last in for your shoulder, right? That's already, we're getting a little bit personal, right? We know it's been how long it's been since the last time I saw her and exactly what I helped her out with. Heard you were back playing pickleball. How are you? Very, very simple way to personalize a message, right? Just out of curiosity, what do you think the response rate is on this type of personalized message in a text? You can type that in the chat. One-to-one messaging, highly personal, response within 24 hours. 80%, great guess. Yeah, 90 is what we're getting right now. Nicole and May. Yep, 90 is the right answer. Kind of great. So this is going out to people we already know, like, and trust. They are likely going to respond at a very high clip, right? Now, the key is the conversation that we're having after this, once they reply back and say, I'm either doing really well, my shoulder's great, or I have a new issue, right? Like, or there's some other pain point that they share, right? And then we have to have a human to human conversation in order to get anything measurable out of this. So the one question that was in here is, does your EMR send the text emails directly or use another secure texting system? Yeah, we use the breakthrough system, which is HIPAA compliant and everything else. But yeah, as of right now, it's outside of our EMR. So that's number one. Does everybody feel pretty confident that you could reach out to at least one patient who fits a certain criteria and have a conversation one-on-one, right? Using text, email, direct mail, direct message, or a phone call. Loretta asked, what about geriatric patients who don't prefer text or are hard of hearing? Then you send them a media type that they're going to respond to. So I would send them a handwritten card. I have a huge stack of them right here. They look like this. Sorry to go off screen, but it looks like this, and I'll write them a handwritten note. But I'm looking for something that they're going to consume and reply to. For that demographic, at least where I'm at, we're likely going to use another way, right? It's about what they're going to respond to, not what I necessarily prefer in that case. The second thing that we can do is we can get referrals from partners. And here's a very quick exercise, how to think through this. Who's your top payer in your area? So everybody has an answer. You don't have to put this in the chat, but just write it down for yourself. Who's your number one payer? That's not motor vehicle or Medicare or personal injury. Private payer. The Blues, Aetna, United Healthcare, whoever that might be. Just write that down for yourself. Great. And then what you want to do next is you want to make a list of the top 20 employers in your area. Okay, so you're in a rural area and there's only 10 employers. There's only 4. Whatever it is, you have people who are employing the people that live in your area, the 5 or 10 mile radius around your clinic. You should know who they are, and especially the ones that are offering your best private payer, right? So if it's the school system, and I want to know somebody at the school system. And then here's the key. Step number 3 is you want to provide value. We typically look for, and this is what we'll do. So one example in our area is Pepsi. Pepsi offers very good benefits, healthcare benefits for their employees, their team members. So they have, let's call it employee education already in place around injury prevention, things like that. They host lunch and learns, they do health fairs, they do all these other things. The only thing that we're trying to do is to plug in what they're already doing, what their HR department's already doing for their employees. Our local school district does the same thing for the teachers, right? They have an annual health fair where they invite other people in, and we just want to plug into that. That's all we're trying to do, right? It doesn't have to be more complex than that, but wherever the largest employers are that are offering favorable payers to you, your top payers, you should be plugged in there. You should know who they are and have an attempt to get into, speak with somebody in the HR department so you can start participating. Now, the common thing that we'll get in the course when we go over this is, well, I don't know anybody there, something like that. Or how do I find this out? The easiest thing that you can do is like when a patient comes through and you're doing their intake, you're likely asking them who their employer is, right? So you can go through your EMR, know who your best paying insurance is, and then just match it up. Okay, so here is let's say it's Blue Cross, right? So I can say, okay, Blue Cross, and they work at Pepsi. Here's Blue Cross, and they work at Amazon. Here's Blue Cross, and they work for the post office. Like you can go through and figure out who the best employers of the patient list that you've seen, right? So once we've done that, we want to have a target list of 10 or 20. I prefer 20, or even more. I mean, if you can grow it, that's great. But you don't need a ton of these at all. If you have a handful of really good partnerships and you're going there once a quarter, twice a year, once a year, I mean, you're going to be fairly busy doing more than enough to generate patients to fill your schedules and fill your space with good paying patients. So provide value, participate in their health fairs, go to their lunch and learns, do their workshops. If they offer such a thing, provide screens for their employees, and think about how you can give education, whether it's written or video or live participation, and then just follow through with that. Just out of curiosity, how many of you are doing this right now? You're going out in the community within the last 12 months and you've at least participated one time in delivering in the community. Andrea says yes. Courtney, yes. Kim, yes. Dana, yes. Lots of yeses. Wonderful. All right. So third thing we can do to improve our marketing and specifically marketing for profit is we can do reactivation with campaigns. So there's a lot of confusion in the industry around, and every time I teach this, there's usually at least one owner gets this confused. They'll take the one-to-one idea, write a highly personalized message, and they'll try to, have an aide or somebody like that just do like one-to-many, right? So do this 1,000 times, and the aide doesn't know, like, and trust, that patient, doesn't understand the personal thing, or they'll try to, just have, I mean, what else happens? Our clinicians will type out a letter that's generic and hand sign it at the bottom, and then send that out and think that's going to have the same effectiveness as the personalized touch. It will not, right? That personalized touch that is very unique to the individual, you're going to get a much better response rate. However, there are some things that we can do in scaling that are better than nothing at all, right? So in our practice, we do both. We do one-to-many, and then we also do one-to-one, right? And yeah, lots of analogies there, but I'll just leave it at doing both is better than just one or the other. So reactivations with campaigns, and we tend to do this like really pour it on our most effective campaigns right before our slowest season. So how many of you have like a slow season through the year? Maybe it's in January when the deductible's set. If you're in the Northeast, like I am, it's probably between Thanksgiving and the end of the year. For some of us, it's in the summer. For some of us, it might be in the winter with like snowbird season and stuff like that. But you likely have a slow season. So we will do a one-to-many campaign, our best one-to-many campaign right before that season happens. And number one is you want to choose a segment of patients. So you can send it to your entire list, or you can send it to a segment, maybe based on payer, maybe based on diagnosis, maybe based on how recent that person was, that person came in. Again, you want to select a media type. We do texting campaigns, we do email campaigns, we also do direct mail. The first two, the digital, we do both of those through Breakthrough. And then, yeah, you want to send a campaign. So over on the right, I forget how many are in there right now, but I just took a snapshot this morning of the campaign types that we have scheduled to go out. You can see number one, exercise for balance, single question for balance, etc. You want to make a direct offer, right? So most of the private practices that I talk with and I take a look at their marketing that they're sending out, it tends to be all goodwill, right? So we send out some form of patient newsletter to a couple thousand people, but we don't really have a call to action. We never really make an offer. We're just delivering goodwill all the time. The downfall to that is we never have any measurable reactivations other than somebody saying, "Hey, I saw your newsletter," right? On the other end, this is more rare, but every once in a while, we'll have an owner that catches on like, "Hey, my list is very valuable. I can reactivate a lot of people," and then they will just pound their list with offers. You don't want to do that either. It's more rare, but you don't want to do that, right? So what we'll do is the majority of the time, twice a month, every 24 times a year, we're sending out an email campaign. The majority of those email campaigns are goodwill, but when we need the bump, when we need to fill schedules and fill space, and especially before a slow season, we will send out a campaign. I'll give you an example. September is National Falls Prevention Awareness Month. We treat vestibular, we do a VOR training, and we do BPPV, every gait training, everything else across the board. All vestibular, right? You get the idea. So what we will do is already scheduled for the first week to go out in September is an email campaign, which is a series of 3 emails around Fall Prevention Month, right? And then we have an offer in there, which is an appointment where we'll do a falls risk assessment. Yeah, so something to think about there. The great thing is like every single year, I mean, that falls prevention, we've been running that for years, right? So this September, I don't have to sit down and write a whole new series of campaigns. It's based on what has worked in the past, and now we'll just deploy it once again to get a bump here in the fall, leading into that slower season right around Thanksgiving. But yeah, choose a segment of patients that you want to offer to, select a media type, email, direct mail, text, etc. Send a campaign, which is typically 3 text or 3 emails, and then make a direct offer, right? An offer for an appointment, or whatever else it is that you're going to offer. The other thing that I'll say is we make a lot of marketing mistakes within our industry. And it's something, I mean, it's what Breakthrough was founded on, was really teaching direct to consumer marketing. Many of those mistakes are avoidable, but your patient list, you are very valuable to a segment of population of people around your area. Don't ignore them first, right? And then go to try to do cold traffic marketing and do something on Facebook and TikTok and everything else. We do those things as well, but we make sure that we're taking care of our patient list first, right? It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the lowest investment of time, money, and resources in order to have a conversion, somebody come back in for another plan of care. All right, so the 5 new patient pathways again, reactivations, we talked about 2 different methods there. Referrals from patients, can't really do much there in terms of improving our revenue per visit outside of filling schedules, filling space. Referrals from physicians, referrals from partners, and then cold traffic marketing, right? There are some advanced things that you can do with cold traffic marketing. Don't really have time to go into that here, but if there's enough interest there, we can do training on that in the future as well. Again, today was all about helping you improve your revenue per visit. It starts with getting a very good grasp in terms of what's going on with your revenue right now, looking at how your systems are working, then laying out a plan. So the audit, we do the profit leak audit. We start there. By the way, you can have an audit for every area of your practice. You can audit another a clinician's notes. You can sit in on an eval or a treatment. You're more than welcome to audit everything else in your business. Here, we're trying to solve the revenue per visit problem. It starts with a revenue audit. We then have to plan, right? We share the profit planner as we go through that Profitability Under Pressure course. Here's how to forecast forward. I know the one question that was for Lance and Dave was how far out do you forecast? We do. Back in 2017, my partner and I, we did a 13-year plan through 2030. That is unheard of. Most people are not planning out that far. At minimum, and what we teach is you want to go out at least 12 months for your practice, right? You should have an idea of where you're going to be a year from now in terms of income and expenses and profit margin. That cut just came, the cut just was proposed. I'm going to take a look at, and we're going to do this for each one of our clinics. Okay, what's the percentage of federal payer that we see, Medicare? If we have a 2% reduction, a 4% reduction here in 2025, how's that going to affect us? What can we do, right? That comes in with a profit planner. Then we need to strategize. We have 7 clinics. Every one of them is different. Every practice on here, we have 200 plus practices that have tuned in today. Everybody's different. You can't say there's a recipe that's going to work for Lance in Arkansas the same way that it's going to work for Dave in Maryland, the same way that's going to work for me in Pennsylvania and Jennifer in Texas and Sterling in Texas, right? Like that's not how this works. You have to have multiple different levers that you can pull. We talked about today. We just went through marketing for profit and some ideas that you can implement there. Increasing lifetime patient value. We talked about that, which includes reactivations, how to ask for word of mouth referrals, and the addition of cash-based services. Improving your payer mix and your insurance relations. We went through that, and then Mary and Alicia with BCMS did the strategic scheduling and coding, which we get into a lot more of that in the course. So we want to strategize. And in the end, after we go through the planning, and we want to make an educated guess about what we should be focused on in the next 90 days, we're going to pick 1, 2, or 3 of those strategies so that we can focus on over the next 90 days. We're then going to implement those strategies. We're going to measure the success of what's happening. We're going to assess 90 days from now and repeat the process, right? And go through an audit, see what's happening with our revenue. We're going to plan again. That's how you use, once you've built a system within your practice, that's the idea, is you want to go back to it and use it over and over, and you get more efficient and more effective as you go along. Sarah asked a question, how much do you recommend spending on cold traffic marketing, percentage of budget? Great question, Sarah. So I'll give you 2 answers. 4 or 5 years ago, we did a study on this. So a brand new clinic, which is in an area. So since 2018, we've opened 5 de novos. I'm not nearly opening as many clinics as Lance or at that pace, but we've opened 5 since September of 2018. Every one of those clinics, we've been able to get to a break even within 6 months, right? Income minus expenses break even. 3 of those we've expanded nearly immediately within 24 months. So we ran out of space that quick. When we go into a brand new area where we don't have any patient list at all or anything like that, we will dedicate 10% of our revenue or our anticipated revenue in a month to cold traffic marketing. Because if you go through that list of 5, there's not really anything that we can do for reactivations. Yes, we're going to ask for word of mouth referrals from the patients that are coming through, but it's not a large list right in the beginning. Yes, we're going to do our normal marketing to our local physicians, PAs, nurse practitioners. We don't know partners in that area yet, and we're forced to rely on cold traffic marketing. And when we did that study in the first year of a de novo, we're investing 90% of our marketing budget to cold traffic marketing. So in our case, that's 9% of gross revenue. So if we're anticipating 40K in a month, 400 visits a month, roughly 40K a month in gross revenue, we'll dedicate 9% of that, which would be $3,600 to cold traffic marketing. All right. So, what are most owners doing in terms of rev per visit? And again, this is just being in the different forums and talking with a lot of owners. Advocacy, right? How's that working out for us? Isolated success at best. There is a lot that we can control, a lot that we can't control. I would never want to rely on advocacy by itself, although we're actively involved in it, but I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in that basket. Cutting back on marketing and growth. This is the beginning of we call it the business death spiral, right? Where we cut back on marketing. We're in the clinic treating more. We lose a clinician. It's just really a recipe for disaster. It doesn't usually end well. or the owner, as they're doing this, they start to reinvest in themselves. I went through this myself back in 2008 through 2010, and the way that I popped out of it was starting to reinvest in myself again. Um, Seeing more patients themselves, working in the business, not having time to work on. Very happy that Dave and also Lance, not long ago, Lance was treating 40 hours a week, and even more. I think he set up to 60 within the last few years. So really has started to dial back and work more on the business. That is great to see. Also hear a lot of owners taking a personal pay cut. Maybe if I don't take home as much money, then the financials of the business will look better. There's a better way than that. Doing nothing, blaming external, making excuses. We can all do that. Giving up and selling for pennies of the dollar. I I believe I've talked with more owners about in personal outreach and selling in the last 2 years than my other 19 years of private practice combined. Um, and most of the time, the business is on a downward trajectory. That is not the time you want to sell, right? You want to be ramping up. You want to be expanding. You want to be excited about your practice. That makes your practice a lot more valuable. Um, yeah, pretty rough situation if you're on a downward spiral. Earlier, we announced the scholarships. Quick update for you there. Last I checked with our team, we had 39 applications come through in the first 30 minutes or so after we announced it earlier today for the Profitability Under Pressure. We'll continue to accept applications. Our team is actively working through right now, qualifying everybody. We'll get through everybody's application. You'll talk with a member of our team. We'll be talking about Profitability Under Pressure, which I'll go through here for you. Again, a quick recap. Otherwise, if you haven't applied already, and you want to go through the system, you want help implementing the system into your practice around increasing your revenue per visit, increasing your profitability, you can click the link on your screen there in the chat. It's offer.getbreakthrough.com/apply pup. And the program consists of a 13-week masterclass. Again, we just walk through every process within that system. So you understand how to use it. You understand how to implement it. You're learning with other owners. You're learning from other owners. And it's just not me and what I'm doing in my practice, but you're learning from other successful owners like Jennifer, like Sterling, like Tony, like Dave and Lance and the other owners that were on here today as well. And one of the greatest things that I really appreciate is when we started sharing best practices 10 years ago or so, there was a little bit of maybe culture shock within private practice now. And the thing that I love the most is owners are not just taking what I'm sharing, the systems that I'm learning from other owners, and just taking them, ad hoc. They are taking them and applying them to their own unique situations and making it work. You could kind of catch that in the incentivization plan, that Dave and Lance and I were talking about. We're not all the same. We rely on very similar principles, but we're each applying it into our own unique practices with our own little, unique flair, unique twist, tweaks, etc. So love that about it. We go through a masterclass, 13 weeks, lots of online training, online implementation as well. And we have it laid out in a sequential way so that you're not overwhelmed as you're implementing this into your practice. We cover how to increase revenue per visit systematically, how to market for profit. We get it. I shared a couple of ideas with you here. We go even deeper in terms of the implementation and other things that you can do. How to systematically attract better paying patients. You got some of that today. How to maximize utilization of space and personnel. We go through some basic calculations there. Everything is recorded. You and your team can go back. I know both Dave and Lance have plugged their team in as well. So it's just not them trying to learn something and then turn around and regurgitate it to their team members. Their team members are plugged in. We share templates and everything else with you. I know Jennifer has now continued to grow above and beyond this, but opened her practice in 2018. I believe they just, I thought she was going to talk about this, but they're expanding to 10,000 square feet. And yeah, I think she shared she has 11 clinicians and is continuing to interview there and grow and expand. So this is for practice owners who want to increase their rev per visit or their profitability, where you're doing well, you see where the trends are headed, and you want to stay ahead of the trends. You can commit to study at least 1 hour per week. I would prefer two, where you're willing to work on your business at least 2 hours per week. You have a growth mindset and you're engaged. Yeah, it's not for you if you're not a practice owner, if this is like a side gig for you. Um, yeah, if you have issues with mindset, you can't commit to change or invest in yourself. In addition, you get the Breakthrough Pro system. I shared some screenshots of how we use it within our practice, but this is how we manage our 400 plus new patients a month that are coming through from all five channels, frankly. And it's how we're communicating with the patient, not only the whole way through their plan of care, but upon graduation, 2 months after, 6 months after. It's how we send out all of our campaigns and everything else. And you get that as well. Um, I've invested a lot of time in this. I know somebody asked me here recently about other education I've done, and there's no business degree, right? I don't have an MBA or anything like that. I have a lot of friends who invested that way, but since I graduated in May of 2000, I'm now over 200K in with other programs, coaches, hiring coaches, learning systems, et cetera, that I've invested in myself in order to help grow my own private practice. You're not just getting me though, like I said, you're getting other owners and how they've developed and the coaching they learned and everything else. But I've made a lot of failures, made a lot of huge mistakes really in private practice in general. The great thing is you don't have to go through that. You get it all instantly without having to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, I mean, you can think through what would this mean for your practice, where you have something systematically that every 90 days you have a system in place where you're going back and you're taking a look at your revenue, and again, you're incrementally inching that up, moving it in the right direction, regardless of what's going on in the marketplace. We talk quite a bit about the system. Really unique opportunity for you to join hundreds of other practices that are going through this and doing this right now. You get the Profitability Under Pressure course, you get the Breakthrough Pro software. Just to give you an idea, I believe we have $45,000 in early bird scholarship money. The application, yes, it's an application to the program, but it's really an application for the scholarship as well. Belinda, I saw that in there. The application, how it works, you go to the form. I can actually exit there right now and show you. It's going to look like this. So I know we have a link in there. This is the apply now page. You're going to click this to claim one of the 30 early action scholarships today. And then after you do that and you complete the application, which will take you about 2 minutes. Oh, I missed it. There we go. Here's the form. Take you about 2 minutes to go through this. And then it will take you to a scheduling page, which you're going to click on this and schedule a time to speak with a member of my team. They're going to make sure you're a private practice owner, that you're willing to invest 1 or 2 hours a week in working on your practice, and that this is the right fit for you, and vice versa. They'll also be doing the scholarship, reviewing the scholarship application with you as well, courtesy of our partners. Great. Yeah, so we have 30 available today. Just from listening to some of the owners as they're going through about why they joined the program, looking to get my practice back on track for growth and consistent profitability. That consistency, consistent growth is something that really comes in there. The idea to get back to a profitable, strong, able to grow and serve more of our community. So we typically see one of three main drives, right? We want to leave a bigger impact. Maybe it's something financial. I want to be able to care for my staff in a better way, provide for them, or maybe it's something personal that you spend 20, 30, 40 years building your practice and you eventually want to exit and you want to create a transition program and make sure your practice is valuable to continue to be open and serve. That's great. Financial push there. The other one is time, right? And for most practice owners, again, and I hear this a lot, is there's some pride in me going through and figuring out all of these systems and everything else. That I've tried to do that. It is very painful. I do a ton of reading. I constantly listen and everything else. But if it weren't for other owners, if it weren't for coaches, if it weren't for other people showing me the way through different ideas, I'd still be messing around with the basics of marketing that I picked up back in 2003. If you're looking for time, this is a program that is set up logically to help you improve your revenue per visit. And again, there's a guarantee on that as well. So yeah, do not use this link. Sorry, I did not change that out. You want to go to the offer.getbreakthrough.com/apply pup, which is on your screen. And again, we can open this up for Q&A on anything that you've learned today or any questions about my practice, the systems that we have on the board here, or anything else from today. What questions do you have?
Not sure if you were able to answer Lynn's question in the Q&A. Might have missed it earlier. But they were asking, whenever you are sending out email campaigns, how do you do that? They have a concern, a HIPAA concern about um, multiple emails being shared, as if you were going to do like an email with having all those, just a pure email where everyone's address was showing to each other.
Yeah, I know within the breakthrough system. So, I mean, only because I have like behind the curtain knowledge. Carl, the CEO, the way that breakthrough started was a cold email. So this is November of 2012. I received the cold email talking about interviewing private practice owners in the industry. I accepted that. I hopped on a call. It was with Carl Madiola, who's the CEO of Breakthrough. We were about 5 minutes in, and he was asking really good questions. And I said, I'm just as skeptical as everybody else. And I said, "What are you selling?" And he said, "As of right now, nothing. I don't have anything to sell, but I'm learning about the market." And I said, "Oh, how did you find me?" And he walked me through this process of how he worked with the VA. It was either in Malaysia or the Philippines, and how he would send out individual cold emails in mass, and how they used Google Earth to, find practice owners like me, like you, right? And I said, "Oh, this is amazing." And he did a screen share and everything else. And I said, like, why physical therapy? And he was a football player at LaSalle, and he had this life changing experience with physical therapy where he hurt his shoulder. And he said, I want to do something in the industry. And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And he said, "I'm the head of online sales at Tesla Motors." And you can read about him. Was hired by Elon Musk. And much of the, buying process for a Tesla that he worked on from 2010 through 2012 is really what's in place today. The email. So when he was building out the email system that we use in our practice now, he worked with an engineer who had done huge, multi-$100 million projects with Microsoft. And we worked with BCMS and compliance and everything else. So for example, if you were on my email address, Lynn, it would appear that it's an individual email from me, the clinician, to you. You're not going to see, carbon copy, or you're not going to see the list of anybody else. So it's an email and by the way, the other thing that comes up often is, how's our email deliverability with all the changes that have happened in the last 2 or 3 years? And it's amazing. And here's why. And again, I'm a very lay tech person, right? In terms of tech, very lay. I'm a clinician just like you, but I understand some of the basics. And one is that email, for the largest two email providers, which are Microsoft via Outlook and also Google via Gmail, they perceive that email coming through that is sent from my practice is coming from an individual, right? So there's a way that Carl and the engineering team built the breakthrough system out, that it makes us look like we're sending out an individual email, not, spam in mass, which is what gets a lot of people in trouble, especially when they're using, larger email providers that aren't unique to private practice owners. So long-winded answer, but there you go. Any other questions?
I had a couple others from earlier that I'd like to make sure we touch on. Um, Loretta's curious, how do you handle geriatric patients who don't prefer text
Yeah, I answered that. I send
You
them direct mail piece. Yep. I grab we'll send them a handwritten letter on just like something that looks like this. But you can use anything, that you buy from any stationery store, thinking of you card, whatever. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, I think then we've covered all of the questions that were in the chat then. If anyone has any lingering questions from the day, from the last session about profitability under pressure, feel free to throw those in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we'll get those answered before we wrap up here.
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to say that the group that we have going through profitability under pressure right now, very highly engaged. I know I just got a text from an owner last night, implemented one of the, strategies, sent a video of a campaign that they implemented and how not only their parking lot was full, but the parking lot of the business next door was full and how excited they were. And, really in a world of in a sea of bad news, there is hope. You're doing an amazing service within the community, providing something, tremendous value for a very low cost. We are the bottom of the totem pole, but you don't have to accept that. And there is a lot that you can do to move the needle in the right direction and at least keep your doors open, and have some financial stability, not only for your team, but also for you personally and your family as well. Any other questions? Wonderful. Well, again, that link is on your screen. Looks like we have a couple more questions in here. But yeah, the link is on your screen for the scholarship, the early bird scholarship application, early action scholarship application. And Kim asked, what is your cancellation or no-show policy? So we are 2 no-shows or 3 cancellations. There's a time period on that. I think it's a month or maybe 6 weeks within a plan of care. And then we reserve the right to discharge you. You're going to want to make sure you're compliant with your Practice Act and everything else for your state. But for us, we do that. The most important thing is that and by the way, we might use it once a year, right? Very, very rare. There's some other things that we share in the course about what we do to improve attendance rate. But for us, the most important thing is that we have the clinician having a one-on-one conversation with the patient anytime they no show or cancel more than one visit, right? We have hey, it seems like you're having difficulty keeping your appointments. What's going on? How can we solve this together? That conversation needs to happen. That's probably the most important thing of your policy. We don't charge or anything like that for a no-show cancellation. We just reserve the right to discharge that patient. Again, make sure you're compliant and legal with that. Brett had another question here. How do you get staff PTs to adopt an ownership mentality to follow through? Loaded question. I'll give you a quick reference. Daniel Pink talks about this. I believe it's in the book Drive, but it's Mastery, Autonomy, Purpose. And we basically, so a quick and easy way, other than what Lance and Dave shared in terms of the financial incentives. Every one of our team members each week in a weekly staff meeting stands up in front of everybody else that works in that office and shares what they did that week. So if you ever come to one of our clinics, we invite people in once a year or so, and you go through our clinics and you see me in a staff meeting. I don't say anything. I don't even run them anymore. But when I did run them, I talk very little. It's believe it or not. It's all of our clinicians, our receptionists, our billing, our marketing. They stand up and they say, okay, here's what I did this week. I saw 53 visits. My attendance rate was 94%. I saw 5 evals and I had 3 discharges. Next week already, I have 57 visits scheduled. We have a couple of patients we need to get back on the schedule that are missing in action too. And I plan on doing that today. And I already have 3 new patients scheduled for next week. So they're talking about, here's what I just did. Here are the metrics, right? Here's the scoreboard. And then here's what I'm going to do next week. When we implemented that, that was a game changer in terms of, yeah, because I mean, it's pride and ego and everything else. Nobody wants to stand up and say, I saw 27 visits this past week and I had 14 evals, right? I'm a discharge machine. Nobody wants to do that. So when we implemented that and I stopped talking in our staff meetings, everything got significantly better. Dana, I am new to the Breakthrough Pup program and I'm impressed. Thank you, Dana. It's provided me with a new energy and hope. Thank you. Yeah. The other key that I'll say is very easy in this marketplace right now, what's happening in private practice to get down. Don't suffer alone. I mean, there are way too many owners like Tony, like Jennifer, like Lance, like Dave, like Sterling, people that are doing things and like getting around those people is really key. I mean, one of the greatest benefits that I've had from Breakthrough is not only learning about processes, and again, I get to cheat and see how people, uh, are winning within the marketplace, but it's being around really good people as well. So that's something else that motivates me, and I hope it motivates you as well to get outside your island and reach out to other practice owners. There are good practice owners who do not think zero sum game. Zero sum game is the only way that I can win is if you lose, right? And you want to avoid that. You want to avoid owners that are thinking like that. You're looking for owners that have a theory of abundance and they're willing to share, just like all the owners that we had on here today. And that's exactly what Breakthrough was founded on, is this idea of sharing practices that give us hope, that give us energy, that move the needle in the right direction towards flipping the pyramid. I don't see any more questions. Otherwise, I would love if you could give some Lauren, who did this whole thing, did the whole virtual summit, all the organization of it with our speakers, everything else. If you could show her some love in the webinar chat, that would be great. And fill her love tank as much as possible. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody that was on here today. You're in the trenches of private practice right now. Tough spot to be. There is hope, though. Hopefully you got something, at least one thing that you could take away from today and implement it into your practice. Thanks, everybody. Take care.